Oh, yeah. Is it Thursday already? It feels like Christmas came early because today we got the first preview of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. An article from Empire Magazine's dropped today with an interview from Jon Favreau, the director of the movie, and a nice sneak peek at this film. It also talks about the possibility of there still being a Mando season 4, which I seem to think is completely off the table, but still, we got to talk about Ahsoka season 2 because Rosario Dawson has been teasing at the plot for that second season, and even Natasha Liu Bordizzo, Sabine Wren herself, has been talking about Ahsoka season 2 as well. And if that's not enough, we got a reveal from Daniel Logan, who plays young Boba Fett in the prequel trilogy, talking about a deleted Boba Fett specific arc from the Clone Wars. Yeah, that's right. We got a lot to get into and not a lot of time. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? Oh, it's a fun one today. We got the first preview from Empire Magazine for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Our first Star Wars movie in just about 7 years. Since The Rise of Skywalker ended in the sequel trilogy came to a close, the Skywalker saga came to a close, we haven't had a Star Wars movie. And that was in 2019. So today we're talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu because we finally got that full article from Empire Magazine. It actually wasn't really released publicly yet, but we do have it anyway. You know, we have our ways of figuring things out. We got it anyway. We got the preview. So we're going to read that together, dissect the entire thing, talk about what Jon Favreau had to say and all that greatness. But before we get into any of it, before we even talk about it, let's say hi to everybody in the chat, shall we? Let's start there. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Hi, Haja, what is up? Holly in the house. Duncan, how we doing? Matrix, what is up? That guy B in the building. Vegas, how we doing? Matthew in the house. Cobre? Hang on. You guys still have these stupid usernames. I don't know what's going on there. But how we doing? Darth Plagueis lives in the house. King Shadow, what is up? Brandon Baker, how we doing? Mando United, what is up? Skywalker Academy in the house. Navarro, what is up? Padme in the building. All right, if I missed you, you know the deal. Just yell at me in the chat. Let's give everybody a nice little...
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Okay, so we got to start with this Mandalorian and Grogu stuff. I mean, this is what we've all been waiting for. On Tuesday, I teased that this entire article was coming out, and now it's here. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Jon Favreau teasing at a possible Mando season 4. You also got this movie, you know. If you haven't heard of it, it's this little thing, you know, it's a little picture called The Mandalorian and Grogu. If you haven't heard about it, it's coming out on May 22nd, 2026. And it's going to be the continuation of one of the greatest stories ever told in Star Wars, which is The Mandalorian. So I think we just, dive right in. I say we just dive right in, head first, you know, without any safety precautions at all. I say we just read the article. What do we think? Yes? Yeah? Sure? Yeah? Well, before we do, let's put up a poll first. Let's start the stream with a poll. If you haven't yet, smash a freaking like in the stream. I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Smash a freaking like. But let's put up a poll. Are you excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie? Yes or no? And tell me in the chat, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this movie? On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the Mandalorian and Grogu? And while you do so, let's dive into this. So, I'm going to check as the live stream goes along here, but this, I don't think, has been released publicly. This is just sort of, you know, a leak image, screenshot, if you will, that we have gotten our hands on here. Yeah, so we'll start with this. This is the article from the from Empire Magazine. This is the full thing. We can read it. We can zoom in. We can do all this stuff. There's 2 pages to it. We're going to read all this. However, I don't believe it's been released. Like, you have to get a physical copy of this magazine. Who knew? They still sell magazines. Crazy, right? I mean, what century is this? Does anybody read magazines anymore? All right, let's see some scores here. 3 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Okay, 7.5, 9 out of 10, 9.66. Nice, I see what you did there. 9 out of 10. Yeah, that's 8.5 out of 10. Okay. For me, I'm sort of around that same spot. 8.5 to maybe a 9 on a good day. The trailer got me hyped up. The stuff like this article gets me excited, but we're still 7 months away. Just about 7 months away. So it's going to be, a long road here. This might be the last big thing we get for The Mandalorian and Grogu for quite some time. Unless they drop a trailer, which I don't see likely anytime soon. Here's how I look at this, okay? I think what we're getting next is the Maul Shadow Lord series. So when the first trailer for that series drops, it's going to be Maul Shadow Lord all the time. So you're not going to really get much Mandalorian and Grogu. Honestly, the next trailer might be the Super Bowl. The next Mandalorian and Grogu trailer might not be until February when the Super Bowl is, which is a long time. So this might be it. This huge preview that we get from Empire magazines might be the biggest thing we get until the next trailer. So, with that being said, enjoy every moment of it. Take in every little word said in this article because it may be the last, okay? Yeah. Let's dive into this. We got to zoom way in here because the text is really small. We got this great look at Din and Grogu, the Mandalorian and Grogu. Okay. The boys are back in town. That's what I guess it's called. The boys are back in town. In cinemas on May 22nd. On the small screen, Grogu, the artistic yet formerly known as Baby Yoda, conquered the world. You can say that again. I mean, Grogu is everywhere. Everywhere. For Lucasfilm, for Disney, he makes them billions upon billions of dollars in merchandise every single year. Just one individual character. They hit the lottery. And at the time when they made the character of Baby Yoda, they thought it was this huge risk. They actually didn't think it was going to work. They almost didn't do it. And here we are today. But he conquered the world and the universe. He was the Mandalorian's secret weapon, the breakout of all breakout characters, melting the hearts and hardening Star Wars fans and newbies flocking to the new Baby Yoda show alike. So what happens when you put him not just on the big screen, but the biggest screen of all? And here's what Jon Favreau had to say about it too. Going all the way up to the tall IMAX format. Now, I think we got to go to the next page. Yeah. But we get another look here, a clearer image of Grogu and the Anzellans. By the way, for all those people that were hoping that this is Babu Frick, I don't know why people were like confirming that Babu has returned. None of these are Babu. Actually, we got the confirmation of their names. I don't recall what their names are. I can get back to you on that in a second. But none of them are Babu Frick. So I don't know where all that nonsense was coming, that Babu's coming back in The Mandalorian. Nope. These characters were in The Mandalorian Season 3, too, and they weren't Babu Frick. Oh, we got a super chat. Hang on, I'll get to that super chat in one sec. But these Anzellans are not Babu. So don't let anybody lie to you like that. Okay. Before we get to the next page here, I got a super chat I'd like to get to. Oh, Darth Plagueis lives with a very generous $10 holla. God damn, that's extremely generous. I appreciate that. Go out a bit. Super chats, memberships keep the lights on over here, so I appreciate it. With the $10 holla says, I've been waiting for this all week. Oh, me too. Yeah. I woke up this morning with a huge grin on my face because I knew the Empire magazine Mandalorian and Grogu preview was coming out, and I mean, let's keep going then. I mean, why are you so rudely interrupting me by sending me money? God. Okay. Where were we? All right. Here we go. So this is the second half of the page. I'll zoom out real quick. As you can tell there. Lots to read. So this, by the way, here, clockwise from Maine. The Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, and Grogu raised the bar. So that's the bar. AT-ATs on the march. So this is here too. No location. Grogu and Colonel Ward, Sigourney Weaver, confirmation of the name there. In the fast lane with the buddies. So that's the Anzellans. All right, scrolling down. Scrolling down. So going to the IMAX screen was really exciting, says Jon Favreau, The Mandalorian's co-creator and now director of The Mandalorian and Grogu. The first cinematic Star Wars since 2019's Rise of Skywalker. That jump from streaming to filming digitally for IMAX is indicative of Favreau's supersized ambitions, promising a big adventure story. Now, what really has me excited about this, and shout out to Explore the Force, love the guys over there, Jimmy and Jack. Explore the Force did this interview with what's the guy's name who's under the mask for the Mandalorian? He's one of the stunt doubles, but he's usually there. I mean, Pedro Pascal's not really under the mask that often. What's his name? There's two of them. Oh, I can't think of his name. Somebody help me on the chat. But either way, they were interviewing one of those Din Djarin actors, and he said, or they asked him, the question was, The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out next year. What is a word or a phrase that would use to describe this movie? Actually, you know what? Instead of me just absolutely destroying this story, let me just pull up the clip. Let me just pull it up. Explore the Force. So when Jon Favreau was talking about this movie being bigger and better than pretty much everything that came before, take a look at this. Oh, that's muted.
Grogu's
Hang on, got to restart.
2026. We're a year ahead. Mando Grogu's been out. It's been out for about, let's say, 2 or 3 months. And then looking back, what is one word that you'd use for the year of the Mando? Or phrase?
Franchise changing.
Oh my God. Amazing.
So, yes, his name was Brendan Wayne. Thank you, Chad. Brendan Wayne, one of the men who is under the mask for the character of Din Djarin. And he's asked if there was a word or a phrase that would describe the Mandalorian and Grogu. And he says, franchise changing. I mean, that's some pretty big words right there. 2 words, franchise changing. That's pretty important. Because let's be honest, we assume that The Mandalorian and Grogu is just going to be a continuation of the story that we get on Disney+. The first 3 seasons that we've already gotten with Din and Grogu, they're pretty similar. They're fun action adventures. Yes, they do different things. Season 1's more of them, getting to know each other with Moff Gideon being the villain. And then Season 2, Moff Gideon is also the villain. But you have now Luke Skywalker involved and Bo-Katan and Boba Fett and all this other stuff. Franchise changing makes me think they're going to be taking some big old swings with this movie. They're not keeping it simple. They're not going for a guaranteed success. They're swinging for the fences. They're going big. They're trying to shake it up here, not give you a 4th season of The Mandalorian and just a continuation of that story. They actually want to do something franchise changing. And that's got me pretty damn excited. Just 2 words have got me pretty damn excited, especially when you take this into effect too. What Jon Favreau has to say, this being the biggest adventure in the big adventure story, the biggest yet that we've gotten with these 2 characters. Any thoughts on all the 4 Mortis gods? Well, oh, you mean Abeloth included? We'll get into the Ahsoka Season 2 stuff later on in this live stream because there's a lot to talk about there too. But I think we will be seeing Abeloth in Ahsoka Season 2. We'll leave it at that for now. Okay. Jon Favreau, supersized ambitions promising a big adventure story for the pair's multiplex debut, co-written with fellow Mando man, Dave Filoni. So, although Dave is still, doing the thing with Ahsoka Season 2. He's still writing his own movie now. He was still involved in creating The Mandalorian and Grogu. He was still on set probably every single day. However, continue. And it's not just action spectacle, which I'm sure we'll get a lot of too. Space snacks will be chomped, and Anzellan droid smiths squeezed. No squeezy. On a scale here, hereto unseen. That wasn't English to me for a second. You'll even see Grogu swim, which we do see in the trailer. If that's not the sort of event cinema worthy of an IMAX screen, then what is? Fans are overdue their fix of Grogu. Last time we saw Grogu was in Mando Season 3. Mando Season 3 was in 2023? Early 2023, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. I think it was early 2023. That was over 2.5 years ago. We haven't gotten the fan favorite character of Grogu in over 2.5 years. By the time this movie comes out, it'll be well over 3 years. That's pretty crazy. Maybe I just read the next sentence, like not an idiot. Okay. But it's nearly 3 years since The Mandalorian Season 3 ended with the bounty hunter Din Djarin, played by Pedro Pascal, and his adoptive green son claiming their cozy new Navarro homestead, which, by the way, is going to go kaboom. We've talked about the leaks of there being this big old battle on Navarro and their home being destroyed, which I still think are very likely to happen. The Mandalorian, scroll. The Mandalorian has changed his priorities, says Jon Favreau, of where Din Djarin is at this point. One of the latest things that he says in Season 3 is like, I don't want to go out there and just be a hired gun. I want to work for the good guys. That means picking up jobs for the Adelphi base from the New Republic, including Sigourney Weaver's upcoming Colonel Ward character, who I think is probably also a goner because she was only on set for a couple days. Her role is going to be very, very small in this movie, although they're marketing her like this big old role. I think they're marketing Sigourney as a big role because they're hiding something. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're hiding multiple things, whether it be, Ilum, Starkiller Base, and all these Shadow Council members and all this other stuff. Or, Grand Admiral Thrawn himself. Either way, they're hiding quite a few things when it comes to the plot and what happens in this movie. And Sigourney is almost like a shiny little, look over here. We got Sigourney Weaver. We got her. The girl from Alien who's been in the blockbuster franchises like Avatar. We got her in Star Wars. When in reality, she doesn't really have much to do with the story at all. And she's just a shiny little object to get people in seats. But she was only on set for a few days. Will she die? Well, that's a whole other story. There's a lot of people there who would have been in the margins of scenes in the original trilogy, the original group of rebel pilots. So this is sort of describing what Sigourney Weaver's character is going to be. Would have just been in the margins of the original trilogy. So background character, maybe just a pilot fighting against the Death Star, like not actually on screen, not a main character. That's your Colonel Wards, your Zeb Orreliuses, those characters that wouldn't really be main characters in the original trilogy, but in this story, they're very, very important. Yeah. I think Colonel Ward will die in the Akbar space battles in Ahsoka Season 2. I wouldn't mind that. Sigourney is the queen of sci-fi. I mean, depends on how this movie goes, but I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, that's a pretty good title. Okay, continuing. So yes, a lot of these characters we're getting in The Mandalorian and Grogu would have just been margins in the scene of the original trilogy, the original group of rebel pilots. Among them, Zeb Orrelius, the hulking, nice, Lasat, heavy from Star Wars Rebels, with a gruff Jason Statham-esque Cockney growl, briefly glimpsed in Mando Season 3, and fully unleashed on the big screen budget. You're going to get a lot of action, fun sequences with Zeb in this movie, Now we get to really have fun with him, Jon Favreau says. He's such a compelling character, even if you haven't seen Rebels, between the voice, the swagger, and the physical ability. But while The Mandalorian and Grogu will connect to Star Wars' wider New Republic era, Zeb allows us to tie into what's happening with Ahsoka, says Jon Favreau, since Rebels' other characters turned live action in that show. And we know for a fact thanks to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni at Star Wars Celebration this year, that Zeb will be in Ahsoka Season 2. So not only do we know that there will be a connection there just from that character, but now Jon Favreau himself is confirming that there will be connections between the two projects. It makes sense because at some point, if this Mandalorian and Grogu movie is to be the beginning of a new trilogy, that all these stories will come together and this trilogy will play out with Skeleton Crew people and Book of Boba Fett people and Mandalorian people and Ahsoka people all coming together to fight one big cause, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn. So if that's the plan, then it would make sense that multiple characters and plot threads and ideas cross over from The Mandalorian and Grogu to Ahsoka Season 2. They also come out within probably 6 months of each other, which doesn't hurt either. Yeah. So there's an emphasis here on accessibility for some new fans. Newcomers who don't know their Ahsoka from their elbow can jump right in. Those of whom the Book of Boba Fett remain closed, and who think that Thrawn is a cantina delicacy, can still apply. So pretty much what they're saying here is everybody can watch it. If you've never seen Star Wars before, you can watch the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. If you've seen everything ever and dissected every single frame of every Star Wars scene ever created, you can also watch the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It's created for that purpose. That's very difficult to accomplish, but that's why we're here. That's why we're here. The canvas is bigger in many ways, though the intent is to develop our heroes' bond more intimately, not immediately. The central relationship, as they go off and face these adventures together, that's the underpinning of the film. So Din and Grogu's relationship. Star Wars is always about progression and growth and characters evolving, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. It's about apprenticeship. It's about one generation teaching the next. There's more growth with that happens over the course of this film. So what I'm gathering here is, yes, of course, it's a story about Din and Grogu, but it's a lot more to it. Yes, the good and the bad. I still think Din Djarin's definitely going to die in this movie, but you know, that's just me. There's going to be loss, and a lot of it. Not just because we lost Carl Weathers in real life, Greef Karga's character has to die, but like I already mentioned, I think Colonel Ward's going to die. I actually think Din Djarin, the main character of the movie, is going to die. Some of you might think I'm crazy, but, you know, what are you going to do? However, all that to say, this movie is going to be almost a big old setup, I think. I think you're going to just get a cool action-adventure story with Din and Grogu that sets up what's coming next. Not in Ahsoka Season 2 necessarily, but also in a possible future trilogy. It's all going to be a big old setup. So, continuing. The question is, will Mando and Grogu grow beyond Disney Plus for good? So this is a big question that so many fans have had. Will Din and Grogu be going back to Disney Plus for a Mando Season 4? How confusing would it be? If you cast your mind back, we got Book of Boba Fett before Mando Season 3. And people lost their minds because they were like, what the heck's going on here? Din Djarin is in the Book of Boba Fett. That's pretty confusing. Din and Grogu actually reunite in the Book of Boba Fett. So if you didn't see that show and you go from Mando Season 2 to Mando Season 3, you're going to be pretty damn confused. Because you're going to be like, how did Din and Grogu get back together after they had that very emotional separation where Grogu goes with Luke at the end of Season 2 of The Mandalorian? So is that issue going to be made yet again? Will we see more fans complain if we get a Mando Season 4? That's been a big argument, a very big argument. And here's the answer. Jon Favreau says, we were planning to do a 4th season. I had actually written all of that. He told us this before, but he's reminding us again. He has written the entirety of Season 4 of The Mandalorian. I still have Season 4 sitting on my desk here. Interesting. When the film came about, plans pivoted. The big screen demands a different approach. It's structured around a movie structure, as opposed to the serialized weekly television show, he says. So there's a larger throw to the whole thing. It's the Mandalorian and Grogu, bigger than you've ever seen them before, literally and figuratively. The Baby Yoda show is out for now, so bring on the Baby Yoda movie. So this is sort of where fans are like, what the hell's going on? Season 4 of The Mandalorian is still currently sitting on Jon Favreau's desk. What does that mean? What does that mean? Is Season 4 of The Mandalorian ever actually going to happen? And then the good news of it all is that this is structured to be a movie. It's not a TV show turned movie like we had the issue with the movie turned TV show with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, because that was a huge debacle. So many people were like, the reason that Kenobi feels so stretched out, the reason that it's 6 episodes and it feels like it could only be 2 is because it was a movie before and they just reworked it into a 6-episode series. That was a big issue. And now you're having the reverse of that, a show to a movie, and Jon Favreau is assuring us that that is not the case, that this was crafted to be a movie, not a, mission of the week, adventure of the week type thing turned into a movie, but just one big adventure structured as a film, which is very, very important. Now, I do have an article here about just that and how they're fixing the mistakes of Kenobi, which we'll get into in 1 second. But I want to know where you guys are at. Do you think we will get a Mando season 4? Yes or no? What do we think? Will Din and Grogu go back to the small screen? What do we think? See, I just can't see it happening. Depends on how well the movie does. I mean, does it? If the movie does extremely well, let's say, if the movie does extremely well, would you go back to Disney Plus? If the movie bombs, would you go back to Disney Plus and make a 4th season that's going to bomb again? I think if the movie succeeds, you're getting a trilogy. Mando trilogy. If it bombs, which I don't think it will, but if it does, depends on what the story is. True. No, maybe. Wasn't the movie supposed to be a culmination of the TV shows? No, but yes. Dave Filoni's movie that was announced over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, is supposed to be that culmination movie, not The Mandalorian and Grogu. So Dave is going to do his movie after Ahsoka Season 2 is done, and that will be like Skeleton Crew, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Mando, all those things coming together. But this movie is almost like the setup for that. This is where Din and Grogu are at. What also leads me to think that there's going to be a trilogy. Because if Jon Favreau's making a movie and Dave Filoni's making a Mando movie, you're not going to just make 2 Mando movies. Yeah, no? Andrew says it's only going to make $400 million at most. Oh. I think you're in for a very rude awakening, Andrew. Yeah. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This movie makes $1 billion easily. Yeah. Like difficulty extreme easy. The hard goal for it would be to make $2 billion. Here's the deal. What's going to happen here is we're going to get Avatar, Fire and Ash. I know, way off topic, but still, it's the same. Fire and Ash. This movie's going to make $2 billion yet again, because I don't understand it. I'm not a big fan of the Avatar franchise. I don't get it at all. But the first movie made is the most money made of all time, 2 point whatever billion. The second movie comes around, 15 years later, and I'm like, there's no way this movie makes any money. It made $2 billion in like, I don't know, a couple weeks. Like it barely even tried. You're talking about Star Wars. Star Wars. Now, I know I sit here and talk about Star Wars 3 days a week for 6 hours. It's ridiculous. I'm a crazy person. I understand that. I never said I was sane. However, this is Star Wars. This is the biggest IP in the world, or the biggest movie IP in the world. I know Pokemon is this huge thing. Either way, it's the biggest franchise ever created. And Disney has made 5 movies to date. They haven't made a movie in 6 years, but they've made 5 movies to date. And 4 of those 5 made well over $1 billion. One of them, Force Awakens, making 2. So now you take that information, the fact that 4 of the last 5 Star Wars movies have made $1 billion, and you add the fact that they're taking their biggest show, The Mandalorian, and putting it into this movie. It's called The Mandalorian and Grogu. And you add Grogu, who's their biggest money-making machine, makes them billions and billions and billions of dollars every single year off of merchandising. It's honestly crazy to not think this movie will make $1 billion. It'll make $1 billion alone just because Grogu's in it. Just because kids are like, Mom, I want to go see the Grogu movie. And then for all the other old Star Wars fans like myself who are just going to go see it a million times because it's going to be awesome and it's Din and Grogu. And it's the remnant of the Empire. Yeah. I didn't even know Favreau was making the Mando movie. Oh, yeah, he's directing it. He's adding to his insane discography of, Iron Man and Elf. John Favreau has the chance to, if The Mandalorian and Grogu is this success that I think it will be, he has the chance to revive, for some people, Star Wars, which he did with The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, but also revive it in the movie theaters. He is the one who kickstarted the MCU. Just 25 movies, $26 billion in 10 years, 11 years, whatever it was, with the MCU, with Iron Man. And he made the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Elf. I mean, the guy can't be stopped. He's the greatest. He's the greatest of all time. Yeah. Fair enough. I think Star Wars is down and the normies don't really care anymore. True, to an extent. There hasn't been a movie in 6 years. It's the same thing that happened with Marvel. They made all these Disney Plus shows and nobody cared. I will say, though, when you look at the Star Wars versus Marvel Disney Plus shows, the Star Wars numbers are all the way up here. The Marvel ones are all the way down there. So the two aren't really comparable. However, I agree with you. Star Wars hasn't been on the big screen in years. But what that's proven in history, in the past, is that people get excited for what comes next. When The Force Awakens came out, people were losing their minds because it was the first Star Wars movie in 10 years. When The Phantom Menace came out, people were losing their minds. It was the first Star Wars in 16 years. So this is like a smaller time gap, only 7 years. But still, people are going to be itching, dying for the next Star Wars. Not only to show their kids now, because the ones who went to see the prequels and even the sequels might have kids by now, possibly. And they want to show the next generation, but also because they love Star Wars and they want to see Star Wars. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jon Favreau, but I think they messed with his vision for season 3. Season 3 of Mando gets a lot of shit. Deservingly so in some points, but it's just the same as season 1. I think season 1 is better, but it's the same sort of story in the way it plays out. It doesn't have all the cameos that season 2 does, but it's very similar to season 1 with the filler episodes. I like the fact that stuff like Ahsoka, stuff like Book of Boba Fett, The Acolyte, they cut out all the filler. There's only 8 episodes, so just give us 8 episodes of all killer, no filler. The Mandalorian takes its time. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, they understood that it was going to be a multi-season show and that they could take their time because there are filler episodes in every single season. But that's just the way The Mandalorian works. And I think that season 3 finale, or at least the last couple episodes, are exactly what we wanted. Or what I wanted. Maybe not what you wanted. But it's the end of the Mandalore arc. From the Clone Wars through Rebels through The Mandalorian. It's them reclaiming their home world of Mandalore. You know? Yeah. Exactly. Mando season 3 and Ahsoka were terrible.
Incorrect.
From a certain point of view. Yeah. Is that another super chat, or did I already get to that? Oh, it's just being stupid. I see. People's excitement on social media circles seem to be tampered thus far because of Disney Plus shows becoming movies. Yeah, the big issue is this past year for Marvel, we got Disney Plus characters coming over to the big screen, and that movie bombed. The movie titled Thunderbolts. Ever heard of it? Thunderbolts was a great movie. Give me a 1 into the chat if you saw Thunderbolts this year. Thunderbolts was a great movie. Not a good movie, a great one. Probably one of the best MCU movies in the last 5 years. One of the best. I said one of. However, it didn't make a lot of money. And the reasoning for that was because a lot of those characters, maybe all of those characters, came over from Disney Plus. And that was a big issue because MCU fans thought that they had to watch all the Disney Plus shows first, and the normie fans didn't get it. But for the people who watched it, they loved it. That's got one of the higher scores on Rotten Tomatoes, especially with the audience. So, will The Mandalorian and Grogu have that same fate? Will it be hurt because it's coming over from Disney Plus? Well, as I already mentioned, I don't think so. Not only is The Mandalorian far more popular than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, than the Black Widow movie, than who else is in that movie? The other Disney Plus shows. Not only is The Mandalorian all the way up here and those shows are all the way down here, but it's Grogu. And it's Star Wars versus Marvel. So it's not even in the same conversation. Yeah. Streaming kind of killed the big screen. It did for a lot of people. I mean, cinemas are hurting. That's for damn sure. But there's still movies that make billions of dollars quite easily. Within the last couple of years, we've had, $8 billion movies? That's a lot. $1 billion should be a pretty hard goal to accomplish, and yet it's happening left and right. The Lilo and Stitch movie made $1 billion this year. I didn't watch it. I don't know anybody who did watch it. I'm sure it was great, but it made $1 billion. Yeah. One thing that concerns me is The Mandalorian's trailer getting low viewership. I don't really know the numbers when it comes to the trailers for Star Wars movies. The channel was not around when the last Star Wars movie came out in 2019, so I don't really know how that compares. I know it has 10 million views or whatever it is. Yeah. I don't really know. The Lilo and Stitch movie was very well done, in my opinion. I just heard it getting a lot of crap because it wasn't the same as the original. And that's really all I saw when it came to that movie. So I was shocked when I saw that, it had that high a score. Yeah. There's very little hype for Mando. I think it will bomb. I will say, I disagree with that, but I will say, to play devil's advocate, the hype level for The Mandalorian right now, in November of 2025, is not that crazy. Like, people, of course, the talk of the town is the hunt for Ben Solo, whether you want it or not. It's the big debate online. And that's not The Mandalorian and Grogu, obviously. But we're still 7 months away. You're going to have to see more trailers. You're going to get to see a lot closer to the movie. And then you'll probably see the hype start to grow a lot. Right now, the trailer that we have doesn't give us much information at all. All we're working off of right now is leaks that we've gotten from 8 months ago and stuff that we've just gotten leaked last week with the Navarro fight. Like, there's not much to go off of when it comes to this Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So it's kind of like, what are we waiting for type deal. We got to get some plot in here because the thing that they're hyping up the movie with is the fact that Sigourney Weaver's in it. And honestly, I don't care. Love me Sigourney Weaver, don't get me wrong. But I already know that her character's not that important to the story, so I really don't care. Yeah. Yeah. It will have a pretty nice opening weekend, but it's week 2 and beyond where it must succeed. Yeah, in order to make $1 billion, you got to be pretty good in the box office for a couple weeks, if not a couple months. And it's all about that first weekend because you need to have a big old first weekend. But it is the drop off from week 2. Will the movie have a multiple watch for Star Wars fans? Will it be worth going to the theaters multiple times to see this movie? That is a big question. Mike, the Thunderbolts were characters from Disney Plus movie, or Disney Plus to a movie, and The Mandalorian is doing the same, but you expect it to be more successful. Yes. Did I not just explain this? Yes. I'll do it more clearer here. Characters like the U.S. agent, was that even his name? John Walker, was that even his name? Was it John Walker? The characters like Ghost, the characters like the Red Guardian, characters I can't even tell you their names. We'll put it that way. Coming over from Disney Plus to the big screen. Characters I can't even tell you their names. That's the issue. I'm talking about Din Djarin and Grogu, the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, the 2 most popular characters Star Wars has had in the last decade. Yeah, that's going to draw a little bit more attention than the Thunderbolts. Yeah. We're talking about 2 completely different things here. 2 completely different worlds. Yeah. The Force Awakens trailer was the talk of my family at Thanksgiving when it dropped. The levels are not right. That's not the same level that we're at with The Mandalorian and Grogu. True, but you also have to remember Thanksgiving was like 3 weeks before The Force Awakens released. We're 7 months away from The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. That's completely different. If we get to 3 weeks before The Mandalorian and Grogu and nobody's talking about it, then yes, we have a problem on our hands. But that's not going to be the case. Yeah. Mandalorian got significantly more viewership and pop culture impact than side characters in the Black Widow movie, Ant-Man 2, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's like a night and day comparison. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. More viewership, more impact, and Grogu, let's be honest, he's everywhere. Yeah. How they thought Rey would be this big a character when she isn't even in the same list as those 2, Din and Grogu? I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and this is the first Star Wars movie I won't be seeing opening day since 1999. The trailer looks like a filler episode put on the big screen. I will agree with you that the trailer, the first teaser trailer, didn't really give us much, but it is a teaser trailer. I think that's what it's supposed to do. I will definitely be seeing this opening day. However, again, to play sort of devil's advocate, that first trailer is not a lot. But for it to be a big filler episode, that's definitely far from the truth. Jon Favreau, we just talked about, he says it's going to be the biggest adventure yet. The actor who's under the mask for Din Djarin, Brendan Wayne, he's saying it's a franchise-changing movie. That's not a filler episode. That's franchise-changing. Those 2 words right there got me excited. More than the trailer even did. Yeah. Opening day, this is the way. This is the way. How do I not have a button for this is the way yet? Yeah. That's crazy. I feel like the Mandalorian and Grogu marketing is going to be crazy. It will be. We're still 7 months away. Like, we're not going to start marketing this thing this early on. You give a teaser trailer, you give stuff like this. Articles have given fans something to latch onto here while we wait patiently or impatiently. And then when it comes time, when you're at least closer than 7 months away, you give us more trailers, you give us more TV spots, you give us more plot, you give us more characters and actors that are going to be in the movie, and you hype the shit up. Right now, they're not going to do that because it would be for nothing. People getting hyped up for The Mandalorian and Grogu now and that dying down before the end of the year is not helpful to the goal of May of next year. Yeah. Mando Season 3 seems very meaningless. No. I mean, that's just, to me, it's the most meaningful season of the entire series. I don't like it more than Season 2, but it's more meaningful. It's more meaningful to Din Djarin, to Bo-Katan, and to the entire Mando arc that we've gone on for the last decade and a half. Since the Clone Wars began and we've gotten Mando stuff. It's the end of all of that. Yeah. I could see me going with a bunch of my Star Wars peeps. Oh, we'll be doing a watch party, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Indeed. I'll believe it when I see it. Me too. Me too. It's going to be pretty funny because come this time next year, we'll either be sitting here talking about how great The Mandalorian and Grogu was while we're watching Ahsoka Season 2, or we'll be sitting here going, oh my God, I can't believe The Mandalorian and Grogu flopped that bad. We're in big old trouble right now. There's nothing that has me thinking that that's a possibility. There's nothing right now when it comes to The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, the characters of Din and Grogu, the fact that this movie's coming out, none of that has me doubting the fact that it will be a success. But hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The only thing we can say is we shall see. A lot of us are going to be really, really wrong, and a lot of us are going to be really, really right. Yeah. I do want to see me some Revan in Star Wars. Oh, you will eventually. You will eventually. Yeah. Obviously, The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't have the same level of excitement as the return to Star Wars after a decade of no mainstream content, and the return of the original trilogy characters vibe after Star Wars after 30 years. I think it will. I think it will. I think the hype for The Mandalorian and Grogu come May will be that high. We're just in November. We're just very, very far away. Yeah. But no, it doesn't have Luke, Leia, and Han in it that we know of. That we know of. Yeah. Okay, by the way, and you look at the chat right now, you got almost 90% of us are excited for The Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm going to put up a separate poll. Do you think The Mandalorian and Grogu movie will make $1 billion? That's not. Oh, there we go. $1 billion? Yes or no? Will the return to Star Wars in the box office make $1 billion? Yes or no? We shall see. I'm going to leave that poll up there for a little bit. It's starting out just about 50-50. 52% say yes, 48% say no, but we'll leave it up. We'll leave it up there. We'll leave it up there. Yeah. And while we do so, let's take a look at this. Actually, I think we got to skip over to Ahsoka season. No, we'll leave this. So this was the big issue that people thought The Mandalorian and Grogu was going to have, going from Disney Plus to live action. And this article kind of does explain why that's not going to be a big issue in this movie. Let's take a look at this. Hang on. There we go. Star Wars' new movie is officially fixing Disney's Obi-Wan Kenobi mistake. A new Star Wars movie will fix the biggest issue with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. There was many upcoming Star Wars movies in development, signaling the franchise's switch back to the cinematic dominance. Since 2019 and the release of The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars TV shows have been Lucasfilm's focus. I mean, it's only ever been on this small screen since 2019. The Mandalorian and Grogu's story would not have been possible without 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. That's very true. We wouldn't be sitting here getting excited for a Mandalorian and Grogu movie if The Mandalorian didn't exist. So if Disney Plus didn't exist, we wouldn't even know who these characters were, and the announcement of a Mandalorian and Grogu movie would just confuse the hell out of everybody. Yeah. Okay. The same can be said about 2026's Ahsoka Season 2, which we'll talk about later, with its predecessor being a spin-off of The Mandalorian Season 2. However, some TV shows development, because of Lucasfilm's small screen focus, have been mistakes, such as the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Now, thanks to one of the films being developed in the Star Wars franchise, perhaps the biggest mistake Obi-Wan Kenobi made is being rectified. Now, we talk about it all the time, but it's Lucasfilm learning their lesson. The fact that they're listening to all this. When they announced the Rey movie and the online chatter was, we don't want this, they postponed the Rey movie. They made sure they got a better writer and another better writer and another better writer. And that movie is still, in the works. It was originally going to be the first return to theaters. We were going to be getting a Rey movie next year instead of a Mandalorian and Grogu. Imagine that. But here we are. They listened to us and we're getting a Mandalorian and Grogu. And now, again, they're listening to the mistakes they've made before, and we're getting this issue that Obi-Wan Kenobi had fixed. So, Mandalorian and Grogu will move us back to theaters. The aforementioned movie was taking Star Wars back to the theaters. The Mandalorian proved so popular that Lucasfilm deemed it worthy of being the basis for the first Star Wars movie in 6 years, almost 7 years, by the time the movie is released in May of 2026. Aside from the other theatrical releases of 4 Clone Wars episodes combined in 2008, Mandalorian and Grogu will be the first Star Wars movie based off of a TV series. But the Clone Wars came out before the Clone Wars series did. So I don't really know what they're getting at there. But this proves just how important TV shows have become to Lucasfilm recently. So much so that the company is choosing to take that to the big screen. People talk about how not everybody watches Disney Plus, so they're going to be confused when they see a movie that's The Mandalorian. But the numbers don't lie, and The Mandalorian is so popular that they believe that this will be a success because of its success on Disney Plus. Now, when you look to the future of Star Wars content and what could and will be upcoming Star Wars movies, you're getting stuff like Star Wars Starfighter, which is all new characters, all new part in the timeline, all new whatever. But it wouldn't surprise me if we also eventually, maybe when we get to the Old Republic, get TV shows first and then go to movies after. Especially if they want to test things out. Disney Plus could be a testing ground for, well, not just certain stories, but eventually characters that they want to cross over to the big screen. Okay. Concerning how this links to other Star Wars shows, although The Mandalorian and Grogu is fixing one of Obi-Wan Kenobi's biggest mistakes. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series was disappointing in many ways. Too many, who found several episodes to be fillers. Again, as I mentioned before, it was a movie turned into a show. And it had to be elongated to fit 6 episodes. Which is why in episode 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, it feels like it's very just fillery, for lack of a better word. including only to broaden the story beyond the rematch of the titular Jedi and Darth Vader. Because if it was a movie, Kenobi would have worked very, very well as a movie. A movie that ends with that great rematch between Vader and Obi-Wan. Like, that'd be a great movie. However, this makes even more sense when knowing that Obi-Wan Kenobi was originally developed as a movie. However, Lucasfilm's TV success in the 2020s saw Obi-Wan Kenobi change to a Disney Plus show. Also, the fact that they stopped making movies entirely, so it couldn't be a movie when they weren't making any movies, which actually causes its biggest problem. The narrative and pacing simply weren't strong enough for a season of television, and a few episodes could have been removed and made it a great 2-hour-long movie. With The Mandalorian and Grogu, though, Lucasfilm is reversing this mistake. Whatever story Jon Favreau came up with for the movie is clearly deemed to be fit better for the theatrical release than a Mando Season 4. This is the main mistake that Lucasfilm made with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that brings us right back to here, where Jon Favreau assures us in this preview that we got today, he assures us, zooming, that he still has Season 4 sitting on his desk. And when it comes to, planning for a movie, it's structured around a movie structure. It's not this Adventure of the Week type serialized weekly television show. There's this larger thing, a larger throw to the whole thing. Which honestly makes me think bigger villain, bigger story happening. We know for a fact that Lucasfilm wants this to be a trilogy. And that Disney is the one who's saying, no, we're not going to make it a trilogy until we see it have success in the box office. So when it does inevitably have success in the box office, then they will announce a Mando trilogy. I still think it would get way more people excited if they announced it as a trilogy now. Like, if we're not sitting here talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu that comes out next year, but we're talking about the beginning of the next trilogy, that would get people far more excited. You can theorize till the cows come home about what episode 2 and 3 of the trilogy will look like, who the main villain's going to be, which we assume it's going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. But it could be the Grisk. It could be Abeloth, for all we know. Either way, if it's announced to be a trilogy, the hype level immediately bounces up 10 levels. Because for so many Star Wars fans, getting excited for the next trilogy is very different from getting excited for the next movie. So, all that being said, The Mandalorian and Grogu is doing the reverse of what Obi-Wan Kenobi did. And doing that may be challenging because you've seen stuff like Thunderbolts happen, but it also could be the beginning of a new trilogy, a new, way bigger story following the remnant of the Empire. Grand Admiral Thrawn is the heir to the Empire, and the Shadow Council and all that greatness. Dave Filoni getting the second movie of the trilogy and then rounding it off with a third movie. Grand Admiral Embo? No.
Incorrect.
I don't think so. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, a Mando trilogy would get you so much more attention. It'd be pretty crazy if we hit like February or March of next year and they're like, oh yeah, you remember that Mandalorian and Grogu movie we were doing in May? That's the beginning of a trilogy. You know how we're returning back to the big screen on May 22nd of this year? That's going to be the beginning of our new trilogy following Din Djarin and Grogu and others. All your favorite characters from Disney Plus are coming over to the big screen to finish their stories off in a trilogy. That's pretty exciting. Yeah. People will bring their preconceived notions into this film. I don't see that. I don't see this changing people's minds on Star Wars under Disney. We will get some fractured opinions on Disney Star Wars about Star Wars on social media. you're never going to get 100% of fans to be on board with anything, ever. For Star Wars specifically, but for anything. You're never going to get them all on board. You're trying to please everybody, but you're not going to do so. There are so many fans that I have conversations with every single day in comment sections and all over the place that are telling me that Star Wars is dead, that Disney killed Star Wars 13 years ago. And I have a very different perspective than those people because I'm sitting here going, Star Wars has never been more alive. We've gotten more Star Wars content, great Star Wars content, in the last 6 years than we've gotten ever. More Star Wars content in the last 6 years than in the first 42. And a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is spectacular. The Bad Batch, Clone Wars Season 7, Tales of the Jedi, Ahsoka Season 1, because there will be a Season 2, The Mandalorian, Andor, to name a few. So, yes, you're going to still have, when this movie drops, people saying, oh, Star Wars is dead. This isn't real Star Wars. If you like this, you're not a real Star Wars fan. But that's never going to go away. That's going to continue to happen with every Star Wars project that's released for the rest of time. That's not going anywhere. And it's not something new. That's happened with every single project that's dropped on Disney Plus. And more. The guns look fake. Not enough aliens in Andor. The Mandalorian. Too many filler episodes. Season 3 sucked. The Kenobi. Everybody hated Reva. Everybody hated young Leia. And then, of course, talk about the Acolyte till the cows come home. However, there's always going to be people who find the worst in Star Wars. It doesn't help that a lot of people make a lot of money from the interwebs for crapping on Star Wars. A lot of money to be made in controversial content. And if I really wanted to make a lot of money in life, I would, make a whole channel about crapping on Star Wars. But here we are today, not doing that. Maybe I'm an idiot, but either way, I think I'd like to choose to have a happier life where I go to bed, speaking how I really feel about Star Wars rather than just... Besides the point, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money putting people down, crapping on things, whether they actually believe that or not. So yeah, when The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, we're not going to be met with, 100% of Star Wars fans being like, this is the greatest thing ever, even if it is. For example, Andor Season 2. Andor Season 2 this year was a masterpiece. I'm sure many of you will agree with me, but not all. Not all of you. Some of you might actually physically hate Andor Season 2. Like it's the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. And that's okay. Is it though? No, it is. It's okay. It's not for everybody, but it is a masterpiece. In 2012 is when my Star Wars fire got reignited. Love to hear that. I'm enjoying the new content and intriguing exploration of the universe. You and me both. I mean, Heir to the Empire saved Star Wars one time and could jumpstart it again. You're not wrong. The Heir to the Empire trilogy was pretty much the only Star Wars content that we got. I wasn't even alive yet. That Star Wars fans got. In between trilogies, the originals and the prequels, there was nothing until Heir to the Empire. And that kept Star Wars fans going when they had nothing. So maybe you could do the same. Maybe you could do the same. Thank you for being positive. No, thank you for being positive. Don't thank me for... I didn't do nothing. I just sit here like an idiot and talk about Star Wars all day long and make myself look stupid. So thank you, because you are crazy enough to sit here and watch me look stupid. So, yeah. You don't thank me. I thank you. God.
This is where the fun begins.
Can I get some good cups full of orders in the chat, please? Bum-ba. I want to switch gears a little bit here to Ahsoka Season 2. Positivity equals shill. Call me a shill all you want. Sadly, I'm not making money by Disney. I mean, Disney, if you're watching and we know that you are, I mean, call me. No. It is sad, though. It's sad that because I talk about Star Wars in a positive light, it makes me a shill. I like Star Wars. My bad. I mean, what do you want me to do? Lie? You want me to sit up here and tell you I freaking hate Star Wars? Clip it. Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit here to Ahsoka Season 2, because Rosario Dawson and Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who play Ahsoka and Sabine respectively, have opened their mouths and talked about Star Wars. Why did I phrase it that way? Rewind. They have talked about Ahsoka Season 2 and teased some pretty interesting things. So let's take a look at Ahsoka Season 2 for now. I'll leave that poll up in the chat and see where it goes, because we got a little bit of other things other than the Mandalorian and Grogu today to talk about. So let's take a look. Rosario Dawson teases more light-hearted Ahsoka in Ahsoka Season 2. Let's take a look. Rosario Dawson has spoken. I have spoken. She has spoken. More about Ahsoka's journey in Ahsoka Season 2. More quotes are coming out from Comic-Con Scotland as Rosario Dawson is teasing that Ahsoka will be more relaxed and light-hearted in Season 2, which, again, was a big issue for many in the first season. So many people saying that Ahsoka is not like she was in Rebels, is not like she was in Clone Wars, because she's so crossing her arms, straight face. She was like angry all the time. It wasn't the light-hearted Ahsoka that we remember from animation. And honestly, that's true, but if you watched the show, you'd understand why. I mean, that's the whole gist of the Mandalorian Season 2 and why she doesn't train Grogu and, why she has to go have that whole final lesson with her great master Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, in the World Between Worlds. Like, that was the whole plot of the show. But, for some, right over their heads. So, I continue. Rosario Dawson spoke a little bit about Ahsoka's demeanor in Season 2 compared to the last one, as she says this. She had a more of a strong gravitas at the beginning. Sorry. Let me try that again. She had more of a strong gravitas at the beginning. And she was a little bit more unflappable. Oh, this might be my favorite sentence of all time. She had a little bit more of a strong gravitas at the beginning, and she was a little bit more unflappable. Oh, so good. Sorry. I'm a child, chat. I am a child. And I find stupid things funny, okay? Sue me. No, don't actually sue me. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Don't sue me. I just find little stupid things comedic, okay? God. Where was I? Oh, yeah, flappable. Oh, my God. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. We're back in. Tag me in, chat. All right, here we go. Pull yourself together, Mike. You're hosting a show. Oh, my God. Rosario Dawson says, and I quote, and I'm liking that she's relaxing. she had to kind of get back into her joy. I think those moments with Hayden Christensen and Anakin were so important for her to heal something so that she could be more present. She was living with that big worry that she would eventually create the next Anakin Skywalker, that she would be the reason that Sabine turns to the dark side. That's why she didn't train Grogu, because she was worried that she would create the next evil presence. And that's what I'm really enjoying. I think we get to explore a lot more in the second season. I'm really glad that we get to add a little more joy into her life and see her relax a little bit more and work in community a little bit more than she has. So this is pretty much teasing to us that Ahsoka in season 2 is going to be a lot more the Ahsoka we remember. Not the Ahsoka from season 1, where she is so jaded from realizing that Anakin is Darth Vader, the most evil being in the galaxy. Her master, the one who trained her everything that she knows, is the most evil person in the galaxy. That might, it might affect her a little bit, just a little bit, So now in season 2, after she becomes Ahsoka the White, after she's done all this, figuring it out in season 1 with Hayden himself, or Anakin himself, she's now going to be back to that Ahsoka that we know and love, that joyful, happy-go-lucky Ahsoka Tano. And it's interesting that she puts it this way, because when we think about Ahsoka season 2 and where these characters are going to be, she's not going to be really, doing happy, good things, She's going to be fighting possibly Abeloth, at least Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, and doing some pretty serious things. So we're going to be getting a more joyous Ahsoka while she's doing extremely serious objectives, like trying to stop the rest of the galaxy from being destroyed by this crazy Mortis god named Abeloth. So I hope we get to see that. Well, I don't hope, she's confirming. We're going to get to see that more happy side. But yeah. I Hodge with the very generous $2 haul says, can I get a Yoda impression saying unflappable my gravitas be? Yes. Yes, you may. I might have to compose myself for a second here, but let's scene. Here we go. We open on the swamp of Dagobah, right? An X-wing has just crashed into the swamp, and Yoda's like, what the hell's going on over there? But he doesn't say that, he doesn't say that. And then randomly, out of nowhere, he just comes up with this crazy saying, and he says, unflammable my gravitas be. What has this come to? All right. I'm going back to my article now that I've been so rudely interrupted. So we're getting more of a light-hearted Ahsoka Tano in this second season, which is going to be very, very exciting for most people, because that was the big complaint when it came to season 1. But how is she going to be so lighthearted and happy while taking on the most evil being in the entire galaxy, in the known universe? Well, I guess that's we'll see. There's nothing to be happy about in season 2. Maybe she's good old pals with Abeloth. I don't know. Maybe she's happy because Abeloth appears to her as a familiar face, like an Anakin or a Padme or a Rex. So she's happy. Maybe she exists in the entirety of season 2 in this crazy hallucinogenic state where she's just in this limbo land where she's happy all the time because all her friends are there. Anakin's not dead. He never turned to the dark side. All the Jedi are still alive because Abeloth is in her head the entire time. Maybe. Either way, we get to see more of a happy Ahsoka in season 2. Presumably, this more relaxed demeanor has something to do with her renewed relationship with Sabine Wren as well. As Sabine Wren's master, true, and being able to rescue Ezra Bridger in last season, although they got stranded there for good. Reports that Hayden Christensen is reprising his role as Anakin Skywalker in season 2 might also contribute to this development, because they might be having full-on conversations. The last we saw at the end of season 1, you're getting Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost. you know, what is that conversation going to look like? This isn't the World Between Worlds sequence. This is different. This is the last time that Ahsoka saw her master. He was evil. Now he's seeing her. She's seeing him as a Force ghost. What is that conversation like? Yeah. Old master. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there we go. So this is the full panel. There you have Rosario Dawson. You have Iman Esfandi, and is that shoot, what's her name? She played Morgan Elsbeth, but she's dead. Or is she? This is in addition to Mary Elizabeth Winstead's comments last month that she will appear in a lot more of season 2, despite the show's impedimous characters. Sure. Being stuck in the other galaxy, Ahsoka, Sabine, Hugh Wang, and others, they surely won't be reuniting until the end of the season. But Dave Filoni has committed to covering what's going on with Thrawn and the New Republic in the known galaxy simultaneously, which does tie back to the Mandalorian and Grogu stuff we were talking about today too, because that movie has to set up this big old war in our Star Wars. If Ahsoka Season 2 has a war between Grand Admiral Thrawn and the remnant of the Empire versus the New Republic, that can't just come out of nowhere. That has to be set up in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So I think come the end of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, maybe we don't even see Thrawn himself, but a war begins. The Empire is stronger than ever, and they're fighting back against the New Republic. And it's possible that Din Djarin is the messenger. He's the one who sees this happening in the Outer Rim, and then he's the one who goes and warns the New Republic about it. Possibly. Yeah. But either way, we know for a fact that Thrawn and the New Republic will be having this huge galaxy-wide war in our Star Wars while Sabine, Ahsoka, and others are on Peridia. It has also been reported that we are getting a naval space battle between Admiral Akbar and Grand Admiral Thrawn at some point this season, which we know both will probably come out still alive. Because Admiral Akbar is in The Last Jedi, so he doesn't die in this, at least as far as we're aware. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't die. Either way. Ahsoka Season 2 will be coming out on Disney Plus next year, blah, blah, blah. We know that. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Harrison Dula, says she's going to be in a lot more of Season 2. And Rosario Dawson says that Ahsoka's going to be a lot more light-hearted, even though she's taking on one of the most evil beings in the entire galaxy. That brings us to what Sabine Wren's actress had to say. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong thing. Hang on. This one, not really as promising, because she says, I can't really say much. Let me fix that. I can't really say much, but what I can say is that I truly believe that the story that we told is even bigger and better than Season 1. I could not be more excited for its release. So I think Season 2 will be better. I mean, tell me in the chat, do you think Season 2 of Ahsoka will be better than Season 1? I think so. But in my mind, I'm like, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? Season 1 is so freaking good. How are you going to one-up that? The World Between Worlds sequence of Anakin and Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds, how are you going to one-up that? All the lightsaber duels of Shin versus Sabine, Sabine and Ezra versus the Undead Knights Trooper things, Ahsoka versus Morgan Elsbeth, Ahsoka versus Baylan Skoll, and just the story of adding a new galaxy, Peridia with Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. How do you one-up that? How do you beat that? House Black, what's up? How we doing? You're talking about Star Wars again? Well, I mean, what else are we going to talk about? It is a channel called The Guy Who Loves Star Wars. It'd be weird if I came on here and just started talking about, Lord of the Rings or something. Or the weather. It's a cold, breezy day today in Alaska. Of course it is. It's Alaska. You know, there's snow in Antarctica. Sometimes. Okay. Yeah. But all that to say, season 2 is going to be even bigger and even better than season 1. And that's got me excited. Bigger, I can see Abeloth, but also this. These are all the behind the scenes looks that we got for Ahsoka. Take a look at this. Or not maybe all of them, but a lot of them. These are the concept arts from Star Wars Celebration. This stuff right here. These are the Sabine Wren ones specifically, at least. These are all the Sabine ones. Her igniting her lightsaber with what looks to be a big old door or something in front of her there. Her in a cave there. Her with her helmet on there, but riding the thing. Something enormous in front of her there. She's sneaking around. And then this flying giant droid thing, which we've speculated about a ton. And then this. The connection to the Mortis gods and just a behind-the-scenes look there. Sabine, Natasha, says that it's going to be a bigger and better season than the first one. But her character is a big old mystery to me. Ahsoka, we kind of feel like we know where she's going to go. You kind of feel like you know where Balin's going. Shin Hati is probably going to get embodied by Abeloth. At least that's what they've been setting it up to be. But Sabine is in a weird place. Where does her story go? Do you think by the end of season 2, she's back in the main Star Wars galaxy? What do we think? Do you think Sabine Wren will end up back in the Star Wars galaxy? Oh, look at that timing. Strucken says, is this a parody because Disney killed Star Wars? That couldn't be more perfect timing. I love that. I absolutely love that. Just rewind about 10 minutes and you'll see me going on a great little rant. Yeah. Ironic. Okay, but do you think Sabine will get back to the main galaxy by the end of season 2? Because what else is she going to do? Like Ahsoka, I feel like, is serving a purpose there. She's the living embodiment of the daughter. That's why Morai's flying around. And Anakin is the chosen one, so his chosen one prophecy is to take over the role of the father. So the two of them, and maybe Baylan Skoll is the son, I don't know, but maybe the three of them stay on Peridia and keep Abeloth a prisoner, or stay on Peridia for another reason. I don't know. But Sabine, Huge Wang, Shin Hati, what do? Do they just hang out? Stay there forever? Just, die of old age? What do we think? Are these stills from season 2? No, these are concept art images from Star Wars Celebration for season 2. So these are not like behind the scenes. These are just drawings for season 2. Yeah. Han comes and saves them. I don't think so. She dies on Peridia. Interesting. I hope she gets back. The Ghost crew are all on the chopping block, let's say. They're not in the sequel trilogy. None of the Ghost crew are. Ahsoka's not. Grogu's not. Boba Fett's not. Din Djarin's not. What makes the Mandoverse really cool is that there's stakes to it. When you watch something like Kenobi's the perfect example. When you watch Kenobi, there's not a thought in your mind that Obi-Wan or Vader or Leia are going to die or Bail Organa. Like, that's never going to happen. There's no stakes. When it comes to the Mandoverse, because none of these characters, not a single one, is in the sequel trilogy, they're all at risk. And when it comes to the Ghost crew, because they have so much story told already, 4 seasons of a show, and now they're in Ahsoka for 2 seasons, Hera, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, Chopper, they are all at risk of dying. I think Hera would be the most meaningful one because she's the oldest, and she would be, the most meaningful to her son, Jason Syndulla, and to Chopper, of course, and to all of them because she's the mom of the Ghost crew. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw the death of a character like Sabine Wren. Ezra, I feel like he's going to stick around for a while because he's a Jedi. Well, Sabine does use the Force in the last season, but either way, I would like to see Sabine get back to the Mandalorians because she did so much work in the Rebels time period to get them back and reclaim their home world. So, I don't know. What do we think? Is Sabine going to survive, and will she get back home at the end of season 2? Ah, yes, kill off the mother and make him an orphan, the start of a great hero. Hey, it's like poetry, it rhymes. I mean, it happens over and over and over and over again. And Jason Syndulla is named after Jason Solo, who, turns to the dark side in Legends, so I wouldn't be opposed to it. Yeah. I'm so freaking pumped for season 2. Holy moly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Are Jason and Grogu the future? There's a bunch of characters that could be the future. Like, we talk about Rey's new Jedi Order. Talk about how Rey's new Jedi Order will be probably mostly new people. Like, her order will be new people. But what about Grogu? What about Cal Kestis? What about Ezra? What about Jason Syndulla? Where are they? They're not in the sequel trilogy, so they could technically, die before. But if they survive, the Force users, the lightsaber wielders of this Mandoverse are the most intriguing to me because they're not involved with Luke's Jedi Temple, at least as far as we're aware. They're not involved in the sequel trilogy, and they're not, at least still, as far as we're aware, involved with Rey's Jedi Order either. Yeah. According to Mike, everyone dies. Not according to me. According to everything we've seen in Star Wars, everybody dies. Eventually, they die. Everybody except for Huge Wang, if I'm being honest, because he's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Since the first creation of the first Jedi. Lightsabers. He's been there since day one. Huge Wang will never die. However, everybody else will. Everybody else will. Yeah. Sabine is basically a God-modded RPG character. God-modded? Like she's unstoppable, you mean? I don't think so. Sabine's Mandalorian warrior tradition made her a better character than a Padawan. It's a combination of both. Like, she's trained in the ways of the Mandalorian, because she's a Mandalorian warrior. We see that in Rebels. And now she's being trained in the Jedi arts from Ahsoka. Somebody who... Think of it this way. It's almost somebody who left the Mandalorian way and somebody who left the Jedi way, teaming up to train each other their secrets. Master and apprentice. Two people who both sort of left their ways. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. On that sort of same topic, when it comes to the Clone Wars and other things, this was pretty wild. So this article came out yesterday, and it dives very deeply into Daniel Logan in this scrapped Clone Wars arc for Boba Fett. And it's supposedly the greatest Boba Fett story ever told. So take a look at this. Star Wars secretly canceled this Boba Fett-centered season and replaced him with Ahsoka, confirms Clone Wars star. Let me push this over there. There we go. According to the former Star Wars The Clone Wars star, Star Wars secretly canceled what was supposedly going to be the greatest Boba Fett story ever told and replaced it with Ahsoka Tano. From 2008 to 2013, Clone Wars ran on Cartoon Network, releasing its first 6 seasons before being canceled and seemingly left for dead. It was eventually revived for one last run of episodes on Disney Plus in 2020, releasing what would become to be known as Season 7. And as we know, Season 7, I mean. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you got a Season 7 of the Clone Wars? For me, 10 out of 10. Even with that middle arc of Ahsoka and the Martinez sisters, the Bad Batch arc and the Siege of Mandalore arc immediately put it to a 10 out of 10. Siege of Mandalore might be the greatest arc in Star Wars. However, it's very, very high. Tell me in the chat. Again, Disney killed Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, they made Season 7. However, over the years, whispers of another Season 7 plan have begun to emerge, leaving fans wondering if the final season of the series they revived was ultimately also the plan for Lucasfilm and Disney. Clone Wars actor Daniel Logan, he's not just the voice actor in the Clone Wars, he's also young Boba Fett in the movies in Attack of the Clones, offered up some details about the show's scrapped Season 7 during a recent convention appearance. There's young Boba himself. Speaking at SpaceCon 2025, Logan, who's best known for playing young Boba Fett in the Star Wars prequels as well as in the Clone Wars animated series, revealed that the initial plans for the Clone Wars Season 7 to focus specifically on Boba Fett's character. So all that great stuff that we know and love from that 7th season almost never happened. One of the greatest and saddest things for me working on that show was we actually had a whole Season 7 that was meant to be based around Boba Fett, Logan said. It was about to be a story of Boba Fett and how he got his new armor. So here's the full quote here. One of the greatest and saddest things for me working on the show was we actually had a full Season 7 of what was meant to be based around Boba Fett. It was about to be a story of how Boba Fett got his new armor because most people were like, well, he's just got Jango Fett's armor and he used Jango Fett's armor. But if you remember, in the previous seasons, he blew Jango Fett's helmet up trying to kill Mace Windu. So this sort of unanswered question or I guess this plot hole, if you will, in the Clone Wars because he did in fact blow it up. This would have culminated in a duel between Boba Fett and the bounty hunter ward Cad Bane. Elements of this which were eventually incorporated into the Book of Boba Fett series. So yet again, a canceled version of a show reincorporated into something else, which is the Book of Boba Fett. They even made, the previs stuff that never got finished. Logan remarked that Lucasfilm has released the short tease of the canceled Season 7 story, saying they just released, I'll just read this whole thing. They ended up doing the story of how he went around and got his armor. There was a story arc of how Boba Fett got the dent in his helmet and how he killed Cad Bane. But then Cad Bane ended up surviving and then going against Boba Fett later on in the Book of Boba Fett. And they just released the chase between Anakin Skywalker and Boba Fett. They showed this at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year. The unfinished chase from Season 7 of the Clone Wars of Anakin Skywalker chasing down Boba Fett on Coruscant. If you haven't seen that, it might be online somewhere. But if you haven't seen that, it's really cool. Oh, there you go. You can find it online. I don't know where, but I'm sure we can. So they're slowly but surely releasing some of the roughs that were actually filmed and recorded. So they filmed and recorded all this stuff. Like Daniel Logan's only saying this because he filmed voice lines to be Boba Fett in this 7th season, and all that was cut. This was in reference to the unfinished animated work that was scrapped. That was the scrapped season that made it online earlier this year. The version of the Clone Wars Season 7 instead focused largely on Ahsoka Tano's journey during the events of Revenge of the Sith, culminating in her escape from the clone surge of the Jedi's in Order 66. All 7 seasons of Clone Wars, blah, 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 blah. Why did they abandon this plan? So the secret behind Star Wars' canceled Season 7 plan have long been a topic of conversation among Star Wars fans. While there have been teases as to where the scrapped Star Wars stories would have gone, these new comments from Daniel Logan are by far the most concrete details a Lucasian faithful have gotten on the project. That's pretty good. Over the years, Boba Fett has become one of the most popular characters within the Star Wars canon. On hearing that an entire Clone Wars series was going to be devoted to the character's journey post-Attack of the Clones will almost surely come as a disappointment. Tell me in the chat, would you have wanted to see this arc happen? Or do you still want to see this arc? Tell me in the chat. This is especially the case considering that Boba Fett focused titles audiences did get was the Book of Boba Fett is widely considered a miss for the character. They wanted to see Boba Fett in all his glory, not so much the Boba Fett that we get in the Book of Boba Fett, quote unquote, Beta Fett, as many call him. The Clone Wars shifted from Boba to Ahsoka for its 7th season. Focus makes sense when one considers that the animated show's final season ultimately became. I mean, it makes sense now. If it was a whole season about Boba Fett, we'd be confused and wouldn't really make much sense at all. Had Season 7 simply been another season in the prequel set show, depicting more of the time between Episode 2 and 3, then any Boba Fett story would have made a ton of sense. However, it's not that. It's not what the 7th season ended up being. It was just about the events of right up until Revenge of the Sith, even the events of that, how Ahsoka survived. Yeah, and it even introduced the Bad Batch in the final batch of episodes, setting up the next show as well. So all that to be said, would you have preferred a Boba Fett centered season? And would you still want it? Because it still does exist. It still would explain how Boba Fett gets the giant dent on his helmet. That dent right there. It would still explain all that stuff. You get another showdown between Cad Bane and Boba Fett, and it might even make the Book of Boba Fett better. It's just like how when we watch A New Hope, when Obi-Wan versus Vader, if you haven't seen the prequels, you don't know all that backstory of those two characters. You haven't seen them fight over and over again on Mustafar in the Kenobi series. You don't see that happen, and you don't know their relationship before, so it doesn't mean as much. But now when you watch A New Hope, you know all that backstory, and you know how meaningful this fight is to those two characters. So what if, for the Book of Boba Fett, when we get Boba versus Cad Bane, that becomes more meaningful because we get this whole story of Boba and Cad Bane in this entire season of an arc. It was going to be the entire season. Boba Fett. Just him. So what do we think? What do we think? Yes, the Bad Batch did come out of it. So that's, I mean, we got 3 more seasons of a television show, which is great. Yeah. Yeah. We can't see the dent because of the boom arm. Oh, you can't see it? Oh. Hang on. Let me pull it out for you. Whoa. That was almost a disaster. This dent right here. The big old dent on Boba Fett's helmet. The question is, well, how did he get it? This would have explained all that. And it's not something that was just in the idea phase. They had recorded audio with Daniel Logan, and they had done previs. It's already there. It's kind of like what we're talking about with The Hunt for Ben Solo. The script for that movie's already been written. Adam Driver was already on board. This already exists. So do we want it to happen? Actually, let's put up a poll. Let's put up a poll. By the way, 57% of you guys, 56% of you guys, do think The Mandalorian and Grogu will make $1 billion. And I agree. 44% say no. We'll see. We shall see. Do you want this deleted Boba Fett arc to be finished? Yes or no? Do you want this unfinished, deleted Boba Fett Season 7 Clone Wars arc to be finished and released? You could do it like a Tales of the Boba Fett, or Tales of the, Boba Fett, I guess. You could do it in just a single season type thing, or you could maybe, and I say maybe, do it in Maul Shadow Lord. Now, there's a lot of questions that come up when we talk about Maul Shadow Lord because it's called Maul Shadow Lord. It's not called Clone Wars. It's not called Rebels. So when you have filler episodes of those other shows that take place fully unconnected to Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan, or unconnected to the Ghost crew, those episodes still make sense because it's not like the show is titled Ezra Bridger or the show is titled Tales of Ahsoka. But when it comes to Maul Shadow Lord, could you have multiple episodes, an entire arc that is about Boba Fett and Cad Bane? I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it'd be a little strange because it's called Maul Shadow Lord. You know? It wouldn't really make much sense. So what do we think? I like that Tales of the Boba Fett. I'd be down for it. It's already pretty much there. They have it already scripted, already recorded, already on its way. Yeah. That helmet is awesome. It really is. I mean, Boba Fett's helmet is iconic. Yeah. We need 6 seasons of Tales of the Luke Skywalker, 7 seasons of Tales of the Boba Fett. I mean, you might as well just make it his own show at that point. We need a Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple show anyway. So, look at this. 80%. Right off the bat, 80% of you say yes, you do want this Boba Fett deleted scenes, deleted arc from the Clone Wars to be finished. Lucasfilm, if you're watching, and we hope that you are, let's make it happen. Let's make this happen. Why not? What do you got to lose? Make it a Tales. Next year's Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the whatever, is Tales of the Boba Fett. I'd be down for it. I would be down. Oh, here we go. Oh, please no. Spend time and energy on making better stories. I would even prefer a series that tells Ahsoka and Sabine's original trilogy story. I wouldn't hate that, but this is a good story. This is the backstory of how Boba Fett gets his dent in his helmet, and it would add so much more to the relationship between Boba Fett and Cad Bane. You get an entire series with those two characters and more of the underworld of Star Wars, more bounty hunters in Star Wars, maybe even a little bit more Bosk and the crew that Boba Fett was riding with in the prequel trilogy. We need a Book of Boba Fett season 2. I'd love that. I mean, of all these seasons that haven't got, or all the Star Wars content, live action, that haven't gotten a second season, Boba Fett has the most potential. The Acolyte was set up to get a second season, but the Book of Boba Fett could do anything in its second season. You could bring in the Crimson Dawn and Kira. You could bring in literally Mace Windu if you wanted. You can do whatever you want because it's the underworld, it's Tatooine, and Boba Fett has connections to everybody. It could be about Han Solo trying to get his revenge on Boba Fett, or vice versa. Boba Fett trying to get his revenge on Han Solo. Yeah. Indeed. Kenobi Season 2 is probably the least likely one because there's the least amount of opportunity. Boba Fett is the most amount of opportunity because you can do anything. Kenobi is very limited. Very, very limited on what he can do. He can't be fighting Vader left and right, so it'd have to be something completely different. Daniel Logan has spoken about it, so he wants to do it. Oh, yeah, he's fully on board. He would love to do it. So why not? Book of Boba Fett is so underrated. I could not agree with you more. Book of Boba Fett is a story that, because it is Mando season 2.5, people just disregard it. It has one of the best episodes we've ever gotten with From the Desert Comes a Stranger. And just the story as a whole, it's great. I think the problem is, as we just talked about with Ahsoka, people upset that she was just like this the whole first season, angry, folding her arms. Not the same Ahsoka we know from the Clone Wars. And Boba Fett becoming a family man with the Tusken Raiders in the Book of Boba Fett. People just don't want characters to change. They don't want characters to evolve. They don't want arcs to... They want them to stay the same way that they know and love them. That's not how this works. Characters develop. Characters go on arcs that... Like, Boba Fett is still Boba Fett that you know and love in the original trilogy. He just dies, almost dies, has a near-death experience in the Sarlacc pit, crawls his way out, spends 5 years in the desert with Tusken Raiders, becomes a family man, and then all of his family dies to the gangsters and to Bib Fortuna's people, and then he gets his revenge on Bib Fortuna and steals the throne. It's called character development. It's right there in front of you. You just don't want to see it because you don't want Boba Fett to be a non, badass that he was in the original trilogy. Same with Ahsoka. The reason that she's all dark and broody in that first season is explained. Fully explained. And she's going to be back to her happy-go-lucky self now that she's gone with all that. Why do fans expect a middle-aged survivor? Why are fans surprised, when a middle-aged survivor is less happy-go-lucky than a teenager? I mean, that teenager was going through a war, too. Yeah. I don't want a Tales of the Luke Skywalker or a Tales of Short. I want a full-blown animated series following Return of the Jedi featuring the original trilogy characters. Yes. Me too. Me as well. Yeah. All right. But with that being said, we do have to get on out of here. We're coming up on almost 2 hours already, and I got to go finish this short for today. So watch over that short in about an hour, give or take. Watch over that. And, of course, smash a freaking like on this stream if you have not already. Hit that subscribe and hit that bell. You get the gist. We are coming close to the end of the month, so we'll get that giveaway going next week, I think. A week from today, we will not have a live stream because of Thanksgiving, so watch over that. But we do have a live stream on Saturday and Tuesday. You know the deal. But until next time, smash a freaking like on this stream if you have not already. Hit that subscribe and all that greatness. And yeah. The Mandalorian and Grogu will make $1 billion. That's my prediction, at least. And although we got the Empire Magazine article today, we probably won't be getting much on it in the future. However, a trailer could be coming around the time of maybe the holidays, if not Super Bowl. And then Ahsoka Season 2 news just keeps on coming. Oh, the Emmy Awards. Yeah, so not only was Young Jedi Adventures just announced for its 3rd season, which releases on December 8th, sort of a Star Wars kids show. But it was nominated for 4 Emmy nominations, and Skeleton Crew, the most underappreciated, forgotten about Star Wars project ever, was nominated for 17 Emmy Awards. 17! Which is absolutely insane. So, gotta love that. Hopefully they win all of them, which would be great. And we want more Skeleton Crew. Never talked about enough, Never. Don't be upset. That just reminds me of The Incredibles. Honey, don't be upset. Okay, sorry. Got distracted. May the Force be with you. Always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. Yeah, 17 Emmy Awards is insane for Skeleton Crew. It's well deserved. That show is so underrated. So underrated. But Mandalorian and Grogu, Ahsoka Season 2, deleted Boba Fett stuff. It really is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It truly is. Just keeps on coming. But until next time, go keep the conversation going in the Discord. There's a link in the description below to a Discord called The People Who Love Star Wars. Go join that immediately. And yeah. Hope you have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.